Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into something that consistently ranks high on the stress list for many English speakers,
Oh, yeah.
especially if it's not your first language. I'm talking about making or taking a phone call.
It's a very specific kind of challenge, isn't it? I mean, unlike face-to-face conversations, you lose all those visual cues,
Exactly.
the expressions, the body language, the gestures that give you so much context.
Mm,
On the phone, it feels like your ears are doing almost all the heavy lifting.
they really are. Think about it. If you're talking to someone in person and they tilt their head or furrow their brow
Right.
or even just nod, that gives you so much information. You know immediately if they understand or agree, or maybe if they're a bit lost.
Yeah, you get none of that on the phone. Just sound.
And you can't easily signal your confusion either, can you? No raised eyebrow, no hesitant look. It's just voices back and forth.
And we should absolutely normalize the difficulty here. I mean, really,
Mhm.
even for native speakers, phone calls can be tricky sometimes.
That's a great point.
You might get a terrible connection.
Yeah.
Or someone might speak incredibly fast, like a mile a minute.
Or background noise. That happens all the time.
Exactly. Distractions on either end. So if you feel that little knot in your stomach when the phone rings and you know it's an English call,
Yeah.
well, you are in very, very good company.
Yeah. Definitely not alone there.
It's not really a reflection of your overall English ability. It's more about the unique demands of this specific way of communicating.
So what's our mission in this deep dive then? We've dug into some really practical material. It's almost like a step-by-step guide, actually.
Oh.
Our goal is to give you the specific language tools, the strategies, so you can approach your next call not with dread, hopefully,
Right.
but with confidence. We really want you to feel prepared.
And we'll do that by breaking down the whole telephone conversation into its key stages. It makes it less overwhelming.
Makes sense.
We'll look at how to initiate calls smoothly, how to receive them properly. We'll equip you with the standard, most effective phrases for different situations: formal, informal.
Okay.
We'll also arm you with language for managing the actual flow of the conversation. Things like asking for people, dealing with being put on hold, leaving clear messages.
And the big one.
And crucially, yes, because misunderstandings do happen, especially on the phone. We'll focus hard on how to politely and effectively ask for clarification when things get confusing.
Good. Because just saying what isn't always the best approach.
Definitely not. There are much better ways.
So by the time we finish this deep dive, the idea is that you should have a mental toolkit filled with practical phrases.
Yep, ready to deploy.
Ready to deploy the next time you pick up that receiver or hear that ringtone. You'll know what to say and, importantly, why it works in English phone etiquette. Ready to jump into the material.
Absolutely. Let's get started. Let's dive in.
All right, so the material we looked at kicks things off right at the beginning. It really emphasizes just how important the opening of a phone call is.
It really does. It absolutely sets the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you sound confident and clear right from the get-go, the whole conversation just tends to flow better. It's like laying a good foundation.
It's that first impression thing again, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Mhm.
A strong, clear opening immediately signals to the other person, okay, this person knows what they're doing, they're competent, this should be easy.
Right.
Whereas if you hesitate or you mumble or maybe use an inappropriate phrase for the situation, well, it can start the call off awkwardly.
And that feeling can kind of linger, can it?
It can. It really can. It puts everyone slightly on edge.
And the material points out something fundamental here, which seems obvious but is worth stressing. How you snort depends entirely on who you are calling or, who's calling you. That level of formality changes everything.
Absolutely. You wouldn't use the same opening calling your best friend as you would calling, say, a potential employer.
Exactly. So they break it down into three main situations. Let's start with the first one. Calling a business or some kind of formal setting.
Right. And this is probably the scenario that causes the most anxiety for a lot of people.
I'd agree with that.
The goal here is clear: professionalism and politeness.
Mm.
And the material gives us a really solid standard format that honestly works almost universally in these situations.
Okay, what's the format?
It's basically greeting plus self-identification plus purpose or request.
Greeting, self-ID, purpose. Got it. Okay, so let's look at the examples they provide. A very common one is, hello, this is Michael Johnson. May I speak with Sarah Miller?
Right. Let's break that down just like the material suggests because each part matters. Hello, standard professional greeting. Simple, clear, can't go wrong.
Okay.
Then this is full name. Now, this isn't just saying who you are. It's doing it formally. Using your full name leaves no doubt. It's the standard in professional context, not just, this is Mike.
Right, full name, Michael Johnson.
Exactly. And then, may I speak with? This is a very polite, very standard way to ask to be connected to someone specific.
Why may I? Is can I or could I? Okay.
That's a good question. In this specific structure, asking to speak with someone, may I, is traditionally considered the most formal and polite way to ask for permission. Could I is also very polite and common. Can I is generally seen as slightly less formal, more about ability than permission, although people use it all the time informally. For maximum professional politeness in that opening request, may I is a safe bet.
Okay, so the combination of hello, the full name, and may I speak with really creates that immediate sense of formality and purpose.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It ticks all the boxes for a professional opening.
Another example they give adds another layer. Good morning, this is Olivia Carter from Greenfield Bank. I'm calling regarding your account.
Yeah, this one's excellent because it introduces identifying your organization.
Yeah.
Super important in many business calls.
Right, you're not just Olivia, you're Olivia from the bank.
Exactly. So good morning or good afternoon, good evening. Time-specific formal greetings. Very professional. Then, this is Olivia Carter from Greenfield Bank. Again, full name plus where you're calling from. This immediately gives the recipient context. They know who you are and which company you represent. Huge piece of information.
Right.
And then, I'm calling regarding, followed by the topic like your account. This is a very professional and direct way to state your purpose right up front.
Get straight to the point.
Which is valued in business communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency and clarity are key. No beating around the bush.
Okay, efficiency, clarity makes sense for formal calls. There's one more example here. Hi, this is David Thompson. I'm calling to schedule an appointment with Dr. Williams.
Now, this one's interesting because it starts with hi.
Yeah, hi feels a bit less formal than hello or good morning.
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
But look at the rest of the sentence. This is David Thompson, full name. I'm calling to schedule an appointment with Dr. Williams. Very clear, specific purpose. So even though hi is used, the overall structure, the full name, the clear purpose, and crucially, the context calling a doctor's office is inherently a formal-ish interaction, all work together to maintain a professional tone.
So it's the overall package, not just one word in isolation.
Exactly. The context dictates the required level of formality, and your language adapts. It shows a bit of nuance there.
That makes sense. Okay, but what happens, and this is super common, if you don't actually know the name of the specific person you need to talk to?
Ah, yes. The material wisely addresses this very practical reality. You don't always have a name, do you?
Nope. Sometimes you just know you need, like, the billing department or someone who handles returns.
Precisely. In those cases, you ask for someone based on their function, their position, or the department they work in. Still professional, still clear.
Okay, like this example they give. Hello, this is Emma Scott. May I speak with someone in the customer service department?
Exactly that. You identify yourself clearly. Hello, this is Emma Scott. And then, instead of a specific name, you request anyone who handles a specific function, customer service, or belongs to a particular team, the customer service department.
Makes sense. Useful for general inquiries.
Very useful. Service questions, billing issues, general support things not tied to one specific person you know.
Or this other example, asking for a specific role. Hi, this is Daniel Parker. I'd like to speak with the hiring manager about a job opening.
Yep, another great example.
Yeah.
Here you're asking for the person who holds a particular title or responsibility, the hiring manager.
Okay.
The person answering the phone then knows where to direct your call. Maybe it's HR, maybe it's a specific department head, whoever is responsible for hiring in that context.
And the phrase, I'd like to speak with?
Yeah.
How does that compare to may I or could I?
I'd like to speak with is another very polite and common way to express your request or desire. It's perhaps slightly less of a direct question about permission, may I, or possibility could I, and more of a polite statement of intent. All three, may I, could I, and I'd like to, are perfectly fine and professional ways to ask to be connected. Using I'd like to here feels very natural when asking for a role like the hiring manager.
Okay, good options to have. So you've made the call, you've stated who you are, who you need, but you absolutely have to be ready for the possibility that the person you need just isn't available.
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time. The material lists some common responses you're likely to hear in these formal settings, so you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised or flustered by it. It's just part of the process. A
Yeah.
common one is, I'm sorry, Sarah's in a meeting right now. Would you like to leave a message?
That's the absolute classic, isn't it? Let's break that down too. I'm sorry. It's a polite softener. It's not their fault. Sarah's busy, but it smooths the message. Then they usually give a brief professional reason. In a meeting is very common. Could also be on another call, away from her desk.
Okay.
And then the standard offer. Would you like to leave a message? This is your direct cue. This is where you need to be ready.
Ready with your message. Okay. Another common phrasing they mention, unfortunately, Dr. Williams is out of the office today. Can I take a message for you?
Yep. Unfortunately, another polite softener, similar to, I'm sorry, out of the office is another very standard phrase indicating unavailability. It often means they're off-site, maybe on vacation, sick leave, or simply not working that day.
Okay.
And can I take a message for you? Is a slightly less formal way of offering compared to would you like to leave one, but still perfectly polite and very common. Means the same thing.
So the absolute key takeaway from the material on this point seems to be preparation.
Absolutely. When making a formal call, anticipate that the person might not be available. Assume it might happen.
And have your message ready.
Yes. Have a brief, clear message ready to go. What's the key point you need to convey? What's your phone number, clearly stated? What's the brief reason for your call?
Yeah, having that thought out beforehand stops you from, like, fumbling awkwardly when they ask, would you like to leave a message?
Exactly. No stammering, no, yeah, just tell her. Be ready. It maintains your professionalism even when you don't get through immediately.
That's really practical advice. Okay, let's completely shift gears now. Pivot time. Situation 2. Calling a friend.
The casual call. This is where you can hopefully relax a bit.
Yeah, the goal here is totally different, isn't it? Be natural, be comfortable, sound like you.
Absolutely. The material highlights the key characteristics. Using first names only, lots of contractions, it's, what's, how's, informal greetings. No need for full names and formal requests like, may I speak with? Unless, I suppose, it's a very specific, serious topic you need to broach.
Right. Usually not, though. So you ditch the, hello, this is Michael Johnson.
Yeah, leave that at the office door.
And go for something much more relaxed, like the example. Hey, Jake, what's up?
Exactly. Much more natural. Hey is probably the most standard casual greeting among friends in American English, maybe hi too. And what's up? Super common, informal way of saying, how are you, or what's new. It's not always a literal question about what they're doing right now. It's often just a friendly opener.
Okay. Or another one. Hi, Emily, do you have a minute?
Simple, direct, and importantly, polite in a casual way. It acknowledges they might be busy.
Yeah, it respects their time, even with a friend.
Exactly. Checks if it's actually a good time to chat before you launch into your story.
Hey, Alex, how's it going? That's another classic casual greeting.
Yep, very similar vibe to what's up.
Yeah.
Another incredibly common way to just ask how they are, how their day is, general well-being check.
And one more example here. Hi, Sophie, are you free to talk now? Similar to, do you have a minute?
It is. These examples from the material just show the variety within casual openings. They're short, they use first names, they often have contractions, the tone is warm, it's inviting, it's much less structured than the formal calls.
Right. And after these greetings, you might just jump straight into why you called, or maybe have a bit of small talk first.
Exactly. It depends on the friend and the situation. Could go either way.
And what if your friend doesn't answer your casual call? You don't usually get a receptionist offering to take a message.
No, usually not. Then, as the material knows, you'd probably just leave a casual voicemail or maybe shoot them a text message instead.
Makes sense. The example they give for a voicemail is perfect. Hey, Jake, it's Peter. Give me a call back when you're free.
Yeah, that captures the tone perfectly, doesn't it? Short, clear, keeps that casual vibe.
Let's break that down too. Hey, Jake, casual greeting. It's Peter. Just the first name is totally fine between friends.
Yep, no need for, this is Peter Smith.
Give me a call back. A casual request to return the call. Much less formal than, please return my call at your earliest convenience.
Definitely. Or even just call me back. And then when you're free, adds that touch of flexibility, no pressure.
It really is the casual equivalent of that whole formal message leaving process, but boiled down to its essence.
It perfectly captures the difference in tone, expectation, and relationship compared to leaving a formal business message.
Yeah.
Worlds apart.
Okay, got it. So that covers calling friends. Now, the third scenario, the material addresses. Answering the phone.
Right. And just like making calls, how you answer also depends heavily on the context. Is it your work phone ringing or your personal mobile? Big difference.
Makes sense. Your response needs to match who you think is calling and the setting.
Exactly. You wouldn't answer your work desk phone with, "Yo, what's up?"
Hopefully not. So for answering a formal or business call, the material suggests a structure that does a few things at once. It informs the caller who they've reached, and it offers assistance.
Right. The examples provided are very clear and pretty standard, like, "Hello, thank you for calling Anderson & Co. This is Daniel speaking. How can I help you?"
Okay, that's comprehensive. Let's unpack that. Hello, standard professional greeting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for calling company name. That confirms to the caller they've dialed the right number, which is helpful, and it adds politeness.
Yes, good customer service practice.
This is first name speaking, identifies the specific person they're talking to. Is it always first name or sometimes full name?
Good question. It often depends on company policy. Sometimes it's just first name. This is Daniel speaking. Sometimes it might be full name. This is Daniel Craig speaking. Using just the first name can sound a little friendlier while still being professional. Using the full name is slightly more formal. Either way, identifying yourself is key.
Okay. And then the offer of help. How can I help you? Or, as in the next example, how may I assist you?
Exactly. That's the crucial part that prompts the caller to state their purpose. How can I help you is very common. How may I assist you is slightly more formal, but achieves the same goal. It's an invitation to begin the actual business of the call.
Okay, the other formal example. Good afternoon, this is Jennifer from Elite Marketing. How may I assist you today?
Similar structure, isn't it? Just varies the greeting, good afternoon, and the offer of assistance slightly. How may I assist you today? Still professional, still informative, still inviting, gets all the right notes.
And then the flip side, answering a casual call, say it's your personal mobile and you suspect it's a friend.
Ah, yes. Much, much simpler. Less structure needed. The material gives examples like just saying your name cheerfully. Hey, it's Alex.
Right. Simple, direct identification, totally informal, lets your friend know immediately it's you.
Or you could answer with a greeting and that casual inquiry we talked about earlier. Hello, what's up?
Assuming you recognize the number or caller ID, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Or, hi, Sophie, how's your day going? A simple greeting and a friendly check-in, maybe if you see it's Sophie calling.
The contrast couldn't be clearer, could it? Formal answers are structured, they give company info, they offer help professionally. Casual answers are short, they're personal, they're relaxed. You usually answer your personal phone expecting a friend or family member, right?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
So that immediate informal identification or casual greeting is perfectly appropriate in that context.
The material even includes a practical tip here, suggesting you actually practice answering a business call out loud.
Oh, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, using a specific phrase like the example, hello, this is Michael from Greenfield Bank, how can I help you? They emphasize that just sounding confident in that opening makes a huge difference to how the call proceeds.
And that practice is so valuable, isn't it? Rehearsing those specific phrases, especially the formal ones where you might feel a bit more pressure, it helps them feel more automatic.
Takes the thinking out of it in the moment.
Exactly. So when you need to use them in a real call, they just flow more naturally. And you will sound more confident, which in turn actually makes you feel more confident.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
It really is. Starting strong, whether you're the one calling or the one answering, is absolutely foundational for a smooth phone call. Get the opening right, and you're halfway there.
Okay, so we've covered how to get the conversation started on the right foot, setting the right tone depending on the context, formal or casual. Now, let's move into the middle part of the call, the body of the conversation itself.
Right. Once you're connected, once the initial greetings are done, what phrases do you need to actually navigate the interaction?
Yeah, what are the tools for managing the conversation flow? The material provides some essential ones here.
Yes, these are the phrases you use after the opening, once you're actually talking to the person who answered, or maybe the person you were connected with. The gatekeeper, perhaps.
Okay. The first set revisits asking to speak with someone specific. But this is more about when you're talking to, say, that receptionist or assistant, and you need them to actually put you through.
Exactly. You've already done your initial greeting and identified yourself. Now, you might need to restate or clarify your request to be connected. The material gives examples like, may I speak with Jessica Adams, please?
So still using that polite may I, which we established is quite formal, and adding please for that extra touch of politeness.
Right. Consistency and politeness, especially in formal or business contexts, is always a good idea. It costs nothing and smooths the interaction.
Another option they give is Mark Roberts available?
Yeah, this feels maybe slightly more direct than may I speak with, but it's still very common and perfectly polite. It's a standard way to check if someone is physically there and able to take a call right now.
Okay.
And just reinforcing the point from the opening section, if you don't have that specific name.
Right, back to the department or role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The example here is, could I speak to someone in the billing department?
Using could I this time. We touched on this, but maybe expand a bit the difference between may I and could I when making these requests during the call.
Sure. It's a subtle nuance, as the material implies, through the choice of examples. In this specific structure, asking to speak with someone in a department, could I, is extremely common and very polite. While may I often carries that stronger sense of asking for explicit permission, could I can feel slightly softer, perhaps more focused on the possibility or ability of the person to connect you.
Okay.
Honestly, in most professional contexts today, both may I and could I are perfectly acceptable and sound polite when asking to be connected. Could I might be marginally more frequent in these general requests for a department or type of person, but you wouldn't go wrong with either. It's good to be comfortable with both.
That's helpful clarification. Thanks. And just to connect the dots, if you make this request using any of these phrases, may I, could I, is X available, and the person isn't available.
Then you loop back to those responses we covered earlier.
Right. You'll hear, I'm sorry, Jessica's not available right now. Would you like to leave a message?
Or, Mark is out of the office at the moment. Can I take a message?
It shows how these standard phrases form a kind of conversational script, doesn't it? Your request leads to a standard response, which leads to your next action.
Exactly. It's a predictable flow, which is actually helpful when you're learning.
Okay. Next up, the material covers phrases for handling holds and transfers. Now, these are typically phrases spoken by the person you are calling, the receptionist or agent, but understanding them is crucial so you know what's happening to you on the other end of the line.
Absolutely critical. You need to know why there's sudden silence or why music started playing.
Exactly. So if they need a moment maybe to connect you, look something up, talk to a colleague, they might say the classic, please hold for a moment.
The standard, unambiguous instruction. You know you need to wait.
Simple, clear. But often they might give you a reason, which is actually more helpful, right? Like, can I put you on hold for a moment while I check that for you?
Yes, adding the why is much better communication. While I check that for you, or while I find that information, or while I connect you, it provides context.
Yeah, it tells you they aren't just like ignoring you, they're actively doing something on your behalf. It helps manage your expectation and probably your patience level too.
It definitely does. And if they determine they can't help you directly, and need to send you elsewhere in the organization.
Right. The transfer. They might say, let me transfer you to the sales department.
A clear announcement. They're telling you they're initiating a transfer and specifying the general destination, the sales department.
Okay.
Or sometimes they can be even more specific, which is great. I'll connect you with Lisa in customer service.
Oh, that's useful, getting the name of the next person.
It can be very helpful, yes. Gives you someone specific to ask for if you get cut off, or just prepares you for who you'll be speaking with next. The verbs transfer you and connect you with are the standard ways they describe this action.
Okay, so that's what you hear before the hold or transfer. What about from the caller's perspective? What might you hear after you've been patiently waiting on hold and the person finally comes back?
Ah, yes. The material highlights a couple of polite phrases you'll likely hear then. After you've waited, they often start with something like, thank you for holding. I appreciate your patience.
That's a nice touch, isn't it? Acknowledges your waiting time.
It is. It shows good customer service or just general politeness in a professional setting. It smooths the transition back into the conversation.
And this is often followed by them re-engaging with your original request, right?
Yes, often with something like, sorry for the wait, how can I assist you? Or maybe, okay, I have that information for you now.
So maybe a brief apology for the delay, then getting back to the business at hand. Recognizing these little phrases helps you understand the kind of social contract of the phone call. Acknowledging wait times is just polite.
It does. And knowing these helps you remain calm while you are on hold and know what to expect when the person returns to the line. It reduces the uncertainty.
Makes sense. Okay, finally for this section on navigating the conversation, the material details phrases for leaving a message. These are the phrases you use as the caller.
Yes, this is your active role when the person you wanted isn't available and you're talking to someone else, like that assistant or receptionist again.
Right. This is crucial. Instead of getting flustered or just hanging up when you hear they're not available, you need to smoothly shift gears into message leaving mode.
Exactly. And there are standard ways to do this politely. A direct way to ask the person you're speaking with to take the message is, could you take a message for John?
Simple, clear request. You're asking them to perform an action, take down information for John.
Yep. Or maybe you don't have a detailed message, you just want the person to know you tried to reach them. In that case, can you tell Emma that I called?
Okay, this implies maybe less urgency, or perhaps Emma has your number and will just call back when she sees she missed a call from you and got this message.
Precisely. It's a request for simple notification rather than detailed information relay. Useful sometimes.
But often it's more helpful to leave a bit more information, right?
Definitely. If you can provide a specific piece of info, it's usually better. The material gives this example. Please let Daniel know I'll call back later.
Yeah, that's good. It gives Daniel actionable information. He knows he missed your call, and he knows he doesn't necessarily need to scramble to call you back immediately because you've stated your intention to call again.
Exactly. It's much more efficient communication. It prevents phone tag sometimes. The structure, please let name know your specific information or action, is incredibly common and useful for leaving effective messages.
So remembering to include your name and number clearly is also vital when leaving any message, I assume.
Oh, absolutely essential. The material implies this, but it's worth stating explicitly. Unless you are 100% certain the person taking the message and the recipient know exactly who you are and have your contact info readily available, always clearly state your name and phone number as part of the message. Don't make them guess or hunt for it.
Good point. So, could you take a message for John? Please tell him Michael Johnson called, and my number is 555-1234. I'll try again tomorrow. Something like that.
Perfect. Clear name, clear number, clear next action. That's an effective message.
Okay. So these sets of phrases really cover the practical mechanics of interacting once the call is underway. Requesting connections, navigating holds, handling transfers, and ensuring your information gets passed along if needed.
Yep. Mastering these provides that essential toolkit for the middle part, the core of your phone conversation. Gets you through the common procedural steps.
All right, so we've set the tone with a strong opening, and we've navigated the mechanics of the conversation itself using those common phrases. But now, let's talk about what is, for many people, probably the absolute hardest part of a phone call in English.
Ah, yes. The moment of truth.
The moment you realize you didn't understand what the other person just said.
This is where the stress levels can really spike, can't they?
Totally. Maybe they spoke too fast, maybe the audio crackled and broke up, maybe they used a word or an idiom you've just never heard before.
And in person, you might have those visual clues to help you piece it together, right?
Yeah.
Or the other person might just see the confusion on your face and automatically rephrase or slow down.
Yeah. But on the phone, that safety net is gone. You just hear sounds, but maybe they don't form clear meaning, or the connection drops a key word, or the vocabulary is just unknown. It feels like a wall just went up in the conversation.
It really can. And the natural instinct for many people might be to panic a little.
Yeah, or just say yes and nod along, hoping it wasn't important or that you'll figure it out later.
Or pretend you understood, which is almost always a bad idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But the material we're using really emphasizes that this is exactly the moment where you need to take control back, politely, using specific clarification phrases. Don't just let it slide.
Exactly. Pretending you understood is just, well, it's a recipe for a potential disaster down the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Misunderstandings, misinformation, wrong actions. It's far better, and actually much more professional in the long run, to just pause, calmly acknowledge the difficulty, and politely ask the other person to help you bridge that communication gap.
So these clarification phrases are like your lifeline, your life raft when understanding breaks down.
That's a great way to put it. They really are. And the material breaks these down by type of problem, which is super helpful because you need slightly different language depending on why you didn't understand.
Okay, let's look at those scenarios. Scenario 1, you literally didn't hear something clearly. The sound wasn't clear, maybe the audio quality was bad, maybe they spoke too softly, maybe a truck went past your window.
Right. The sound itself was the issue. In this situation, you simply need them to repeat the words. The most common and direct way to ask for this, according to the material, is, sorry, could you repeat that?
Okay, simple, direct. And adding sorry at the beginning, why is that important?
It just softens the request. It makes it polite. Even though it might not be your fault you didn't hear, starting with sorry or excuse me, acknowledges that there's been a little hiccup in the communication flow and you're asking them to do something again. It avoids sounding abrupt or demanding, like just saying, repeat that.
Right. Keeps things smooth. Okay. Another excellent phrase the material provides, specifically for when you feel like you missed some words. I didn't catch that. Could you say it again?
Yes. Didn't catch that is such a natural, common, idiomatic phrase in English. It perfectly expresses the idea of not hearing or understanding something, especially if it was said quickly or perhaps mumbled.
It sounds much more natural than saying something very literal like, I failed to perceive those words accurately.
Exactly. Using a natural idiom like didn't catch that actually makes you sound more fluent, more like a native speaker, which ironically can help project more confidence even in the moment when you're admitting you missed something.
That's a cool little side effect. Okay, so those two, sorry, can you repeat that? And I didn't catch that. Could you say it again? Are great for when the sound was the problem.
Pure repetition needed.
What about scenario 2? You heard the words perfectly fine, the sound was clear, but you genuinely didn't understand the meaning.
Ah, the comprehension issue.
Yeah.
This happens too. Maybe it was complex vocabulary, maybe a really convoluted sentence structure, or maybe they referred to an unfamiliar concept or some internal jargon you don't know.
Right. Just repeating the same confusing words won't help here.
Exactly. This requires a different approach than just asking for repetition. You need clarification of the meaning itself, and the material gives us the perfect phrase for this. Could you clarify what you mean?
Clarify. That's the key verb there, isn't it? It means make clearer or easier to understand. So you're explicitly asking them to explain it differently, not just repeat it.
Yes, exactly. You're signaling, okay, the words registered, I heard them, but the message isn't landing. I need more. You're asking for elaboration, maybe a definition, or just a different way of explaining the point.
Okay. Another phrase suggested for this situation. I'm not sure I understand. Can you explain it another way?
This one is also very clear and importantly honest. I'm not sure I understand. Is a direct but polite statement of your confusion. No shame in it.
Right.
And then the request. Can you explain it another way? This specifically asks them to rephrase. Perhaps they can use simpler language or give you an example or break down the idea step by step. It puts the onus back on them, politely, to find a communication strategy that works.
These phrases seem really powerful because they are polite ways to admit you need help with comprehension, not just with hearing.
They are, and they shift the responsibility for clarity back to the speaker, which is often appropriate. It's their job to make sure their message is understood.
Okay, makes sense. Now, scenario 3. You suspect the technology itself is the problem. The connection. It's crackling, the voice is cutting in and out, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, the bane of phone calls everywhere. This happens all the time, doesn't it? Bad reception, VoIP glitches.
Constantly. So it's helpful to actually identify that as the problem, rather than letting the other person think you just weren't listening or understanding.
Absolutely. And the material provides specific phrases for this, like,
Yeah.
I think we have a bad connection. Can you say that again?
Okay, so you're diagnosing the issue out loud. You're basically saying, hey, it's not necessarily you or me having trouble here. I think it's the technology failing us.
Precisely. It depersonalizes the problem.
Right.
And then you naturally follow with a request for repetition. Can you say that again? Because you likely missed parts of what they said due to that technical issue.
Okay. And another variation of the material highlights, which is very specific, you're cutting out. Could you repeat that?
Yes. Cutting out is very common. Specific phone jargon. It means the audio signal is intermittently dropping, like little gaps in the sound.
Right, like bits of words are missing.
Exactly. Using a precise term like cutting out immediately tells the other person exactly what the technical issue sounds like on your end. It's the kind of phrase native speakers use all the time when the connection is poor.
So using it makes you sound, again, quite natural and experienced with phone calls, even while pointing out a problem.
It really does. It shows you understand the common pitfalls of phone communication.
The material even suggests a specific practice exercise for this whole section, which I think is great. It's about practicing asking someone who's speaking too fast to repeat, and it combines a couple of these techniques.
Ah, yes. That's a really useful combo.
They suggest using something like, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again more slowly?
Yeah, that combination is brilliant, isn't it? Because it addresses multiple potential issues at once.
How so?
Well, sorry, I didn't catch that. Acknowledges you missed it. Politely. Could you say it again? Is the basic request for repetition. But then adding more slowly, specifically, targets the speed as the potential problem.
Ah, right. So you're giving them specific feedback on how to repeat it effectively for you.
Exactly. It's a really comprehensive phrase for tackling that very common problem of people speaking too quickly on the phone, perhaps because they're nervous or just naturally fast talkers.
It feels like using these clarification phrases isn't just about getting the information you missed. It's also about managing the interaction confidently, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about staying in control of the communication process.
You avoid those awkward silences where you're scrambling to figure out what was said. And you definitely avoid potentially agreeing to something you didn't actually understand, which could be disastrous.
Right. By using these phrases, you maintain a professional, calm demeanor. Even when you're facing a technical glitch or a comprehension challenge, you're showing you know how to handle communication breakdowns effectively.
They really are arguably the most important phrases in your entire phone call toolkit, especially if phone calls make you anxious.
I would agree. They really are. They empower you. They give you the tools to navigate the inherent uncertainties and potential pitfalls of phone communication effectively and crucially politely. Mastering them can transform a moment that feels like panic into just a manageable, normal step in the conversation.
Yeah.
Huge confidence booster.
Okay, wow. We have covered a substantial amount of ground today, really getting into the nuts and bolts of making and receiving phone calls in English.
We really have, from start to finish.
We started right at the beginning, emphasizing the foundational importance of that opening, how it really sets the tone for everything that follows.
And we broke down those openings based on formality, didn't we? How to make a clear, professional call to a business using full names, polite requests like, may I speak with?
Right.
Versus that relaxed, informal approach for calling a friend, first names only, casual greetings like, hey, what's up? Big difference.
And we saw how answering calls follows that same pattern. From the structured business response, thank you for calling company, this is name, how can I help you? All the way down to the simple, personal greeting like, hey, or hello.
Yep, matching the response to the context. Then we moved into the core conversation itself.
Yeah, looking at those essential phrases for managing the flow, requesting to speak with someone once the call is actually answered.
Understanding what's happening when you hear please hold or let me transfer you. Knowing the standard procedure.
And knowing exactly what to say if you need to leave a message for someone who's unavailable. Being prepared with your name, number, and maybe a brief note like, please let Daniel know I'll call back later, providing that clarity.
And then crucially, we spent a good chunk of time on those vital clarification phrases, your toolkit for when things go wrong.
Definitely need those.
We armed you with specific language for when you literally didn't hear something. Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah.
Didn't catch that. For when you heard the words but didn't understand the meaning. Could you clarify what you mean? Can you explain it another way?
Right.
And for when the tech fails you, when the connection is poor, I think we have a bad connection, you're cutting out. Having these phrases ready is key.
The material we explored today really drives home this central point. Simply having these specific phrases ready, not just recognizing them when you hear them, but being able to actually use them confidently, that significantly boosts both your confidence and your professionalism on the phone.
It really does. You move from feeling reactive and maybe a bit helpless to feeling prepared and proactive. You have a plan for these common situations.
And to really make this knowledge stick, to turn it from theory into practice, the material suggests actually doing something with it.
Ah, yes, the practical application. Very important.
They propose a practical challenge. Actually simulate making a phone call using the kinds of phrases and scenarios we've discussed today.
Right. Not just thinking about it, but actually verbalizing it.
Exactly. And the goal isn't about having a perfect, flawless conversation on the first try. It's more about getting comfortable saying the words out loud, getting used to the flow.
Building that muscle memory for the language.
Yeah. They suggest some realistic scenarios, too. Things like practice calling a hotel to ask about booking a room. Or calling a restaurant to maybe order takeaway food.
Or calling a company to inquire about a job opening you saw advertised. These are real practical situations you might actually encounter.
Totally. And they even suggest, and this might sound a bit daunting to some people.
Go on.
They suggest maybe recording yourself making these practice calls.
Ooh, okay. Recording yourself. Why would that be helpful?
Well, the idea is that listening back allows you to hear yourself as others might hear you. You can identify which phrases sound natural coming out of your mouth and which ones maybe need a bit more practice.
Ah, I see. So you can notice where you might hesitate or stumble, or maybe where your pronunciation could be clearer.
Exactly. It removes the pressure of having a live person on the other end judging you. It's just for you, for self-correction and improvement. It can be a really powerful learning technique, even if it feels a bit weird at first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Huh.
Low-stakes practice with high-value feedback,
Yeah.
just from listening to yourself.
Right. The source material also prompted their listeners with a couple of questions that I think are excellent for you listening now to reflect on.
Oh, yeah, what are they?
First, what specific part of speaking on the phone in English do you personally find the hardest? Pinpoint your biggest challenge. Is it the opening? Is it asking for clarification? Is it understanding fast speech? Is it leaving a message? What trips you up the most?
Identifying the pain point.
Yeah. And second, thinking about all the specific phrases we covered today, which single phrase do you think will be the most immediately useful for you in your situation? Just pick one game changer.
Focusing on your biggest challenge and then arming yourself with one specific helpful phrase to tackle that challenge. That sounds like a really great manageable way to start applying what we've discussed today.
Exactly. Don't try to become a phone master overnight. Pick one thing. Maybe it's just getting comfortable saying, "Could you repeat that, please?" Practice that until it feels easy, then maybe move on to the next one.
Small steps, building confidence gradually. I like it.
And just to give a little hint about the broader journey of language learning, the material we based this on mentioned that their next topic was going to be about sounding more natural in everyday English conversations beyond just the phone.
Ah, okay. So moving from functional competence to more nuanced fluency.
Exactly. It just highlights that learning a language is this continuous process, right? You build foundational skills like mastering the mechanics of phone calls, which we did today, and then you build on that to refine things like fluency, naturalness, sounding more idiomatic.
Indeed. And gaining confidence specifically on the phone is a fantastic building block for that broader goal. If you can handle phone calls, which are uniquely challenging, it frees up so much mental energy.
How so?
Well, if you're not constantly worrying about the basic mechanics, how to start, how to ask for repetition, you have more cognitive bandwidth available to actually focus on the content of the conversation, on understanding nuances, on expressing yourself more clearly, maybe even on using more sophisticated vocabulary or sounding more, conversational in general.
That makes perfect sense. Less worry about the how, more focus on the what.
Precisely.
So the biggest takeaway then from this entire deep dive, really echoing the core message from the material we explored, is that practice, active, deliberate practice is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to build that confidence on the phone.
Couldn't agree more. You now have a detailed map, you have the key phrases, you understand the structure. But knowledge alone isn't enough.
Right. The next step is yours to start using them.
And don't wait for a really important high-stakes call to try these out for the first time. That's too much pressure.
Good point. Find low-stakes opportunities.
Exactly. Look for opportunities, even small ones, maybe calling to check store hours or asking a quick question where it doesn't matter too much if you stumble a bit. Use these phrases in those situations.
The more you integrate them into your active language, even in low-pressure contexts,
The more readily available they will be automatically when you do need them most in that more important call. Practice really does transform knowledge into habit, into instinct.
So take that challenge seriously. Think about what trips you up most on English phone calls. Find that one game-changing phrase that could make a difference for you. And then actually make the practice call. Record yourself if you dare. Listen back. Keep practicing. Your confidence is truly on the other line, waiting for you to connect.
Well said. And perhaps, just as a final thought for you to ponder as you go off and practice, consider this. How has the massive shift towards remote work, and especially video calls in the last few years, changed the landscape for these skills?
Interesting question.
Do we still need these pure audiophone-specific skills quite as much as we used to? Or are they sort of merging with, or maybe even being partially replaced by, the skills needed for hybrid audio-visual communication, like on Zoom or Teams calls, where you get some visual cues back?
That's a really interesting point. Are the lines blurring? Something definitely to think about as you work on honing that phone call confidence.